Hi, I'm Juan Arango from Exit Ventures. If you or your family are considering selling a family business or a portfolio company, this conversation is for you. In today's videos, our managing partner, Paul Bergen, who's led over $3 billion in strategic acquisitions, will walk you through exactly how to position your company for a successful exit to a strategic buyer. So let's go ahead and dive in.
So let's talk a little bit about due diligence and negotiation. There's one thing that I want to make sure everybody understands. It's simple, but it's critical for the sale process. The leverage between buyer and seller shifts significantly during the process away from you as a seller as you get closer and closer to closing. So let me give a quick example. Let's say that you're selling the family legacy business or portfolio, doesn't matter. Let's say you're selling business and you've hired a banker. They send out the confidential information memorandum. They've got lots of interest. They send out 20 books to 20 potentially interested buyers. 15 of them come back and say they want to put in an initial offer. You get 15 letters, right, with varying non-binding initial terms and a price. At that point, you have a tremendous amount of leverage. There's 15 people who want in, and not all of them are in the same position in terms of the ability to get a deal done at an attractive price, but you still have a lot of leverage because there's 15 of them trying to get in, right? Now, let's say fast forward 4 or 5 months, and you've negotiated a transaction. The buyer insisted on exclusivity, a month ago or 6 weeks ago. And so someone's had exclusivity for, let's just say, 4 to 6 weeks. All of the other buyers have kind of grown cold. You've negotiated everything. You've negotiated everything in the purchase agreement, all of the ancillary documents, and you're thinking that closing is going to be in 2 days. You get a phone call from the buyer's CEO, and he said, I'm just not sure about the price we're paying. I think it might be a little too much. It's July, it's vacation season. My vacation starts in a day. I'm going to go on vacation for 3 weeks. Your exclusivity letter has given me exclusivity for the next 3 weeks anyway. I'm going to go on vacation. I'll think about the price. I'll call you in 3 weeks. So who has the leverage now, right? And that happens, by the way. I've seen this movie before. So now, because there's only one person there and you've granted exclusivity and you've granted probably too much time for exclusivity, you've given away a significant amount of leverage. And even if you could get out of the exclusivity period that you had given them, given the terms, because you've got good lawyers, you've now got to go back to the other buyers, and they've been out of the process for 6 weeks. And they've gotten a little cold, and they're not up to date on the most recent negotiations or the business performance. And so now you've got to start over again. So what you want to do, and this is where good advisors come in, is one, never give exclusivity unless you absolutely have to. And if you have to, grant it as late as possible. I've seen successful auctions where they say, we will give you exclusivity for the last week of the process to make sure that all of the, legal documentation is done, but we're not going to give exclusivity for more than a week. That the buyers hate that, and they'll squeal and they'll complain and they'll threaten to drop out. Most of it's, total garbage. They're not going to drop out. But that's very effective if you can pull that off, because it keeps 2 or 3 buyers in the process right up until the end. And that way the buyer has very limited recourse to kind of retrade the deal or basically not wire, right? That dynamic is at the heart of keeping buyers honest and getting the best possible terms without any retrading at the last minute. And as much as you think that people don't retrade, It's surprising how supposedly upright and upstanding public companies can and do retrade at the last minute from time to time. So that's one of my secret tricks. And happy to kind of go into this more often offline if anybody wants more questions, has more questions. So this is a funny comic I saw, and it made me think, sometimes we get very excited about a small negotiation win, right? Bedtime was pushed back 10 minutes, who cares? But sometimes we get really excited about that, about the wrong thing. So how do you focus due diligence and negotiation on the things that really matter?